Jack the Ripper, Victorian London's most notorious murderer. This is a story of fear, of fog, and of a city haunted by a name. Not a real name, but one created by a terrified press and repeated by a shocked public. Jack the Ripper. In the autumn of 1888, a crowded district in East London called Whitechapel became the stage for murders that horrified Victorian Britain. The crimes were brutal, the coverage sensational, and the killer, whoever he was, vanished into the shadows, leaving only rumors, fear, and a legend that endures more than a century later. Whitechapel, 1888, a city on edge. Whitechapel was one of London's poorest districts. Narrow streets twisted into alleys packed with lodging houses, pubs, and markets. Poverty was everywhere. Sanitation was poor, disease spread easily, and unemployment forced many women into prostitution, often selling their bodies just to afford a bed for the night. The area also hosted waves of immigrants, Irish laborers, Eastern European Jews, and refugees, who were often met with hostility. To wealthier Londoners, Whitechapel became a symbol of chaos, poverty, and vice. Newspapers painted it as a den of crime and immorality. Into this atmosphere of fear stepped a murderer, whose crimes seemed to embody every nightmare about the East End, the Canonical Five. The victims most often linked to Jack the Ripper are known as the Canonical Five: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly, was found on August 31st, 1888. She had been living in a workhouse and was seeking money for a bed when her throat was cut and her body mutilated. Annie Chapman was killed on September 8th, found in Hanbury Street. Her injuries were worse, and internal organs were missing, sparking theories that the killer had surgical skill. September 30th brought the double event. Elizabeth Stride was discovered in Berners Street with her throat cut, but no mutilations, suggesting the killer was interrupted. Less than an hour later, Catherine Eddowes was found in Mitre Square, savagely mutilated, her organs removed. The final canonical victim, Mary Jane Kelly, was murdered indoors on November 9th in Miller's Court. The killer had time, and the mutilations were the most horrific of all. These 5 women were bound together in death and in legend, but they were also individuals struggling in harsh conditions. Their names deserve to be remembered beyond the shadow of their killer. Beyond the 5, other murders raise questions. Martha Tabram, stabbed dozens of times in August 1888, is often considered a possible early victim. Frances Coles, killed in 1891, was speculated to mark the Ripper's return. Emma Smith and Alice Mackenzie also appear in police records. Whether Jack was responsible remains uncertain, deepening the mystery. Policing and forensics. Victorian policing lacked modern tools. There were no fingerprints, no DNA, and little understanding of how to preserve crime scenes. Crowds often trampled evidence before police could act. Doctors examined wounds, but disagreed on whether they showed medical skill or simply the work of someone familiar with knives. The gaps in forensic science left investigators chasing shadows. Letters from the Ripper. During the killings, police and newspapers received hundreds of letters signed Jack the Ripper. Most were hoaxes, but a few became infamous. The Dear Boss letter introduced the name Jack the Ripper. The Saucy Jackie postcard referred to the double event. The most chilling was the From Hell letter, sent with half a human kidney, allegedly from a victim. Whether genuine or cruel pranks, these letters shaped the Ripper's legend. The investigation. Both the Metropolitan Police and the City of London Police investigated, but cooperation was limited. Detectives interviewed thousands and patrolled nightly, but witnesses gave conflicting accounts, and false leads wasted precious time. Each murder brought outrage in the press and anger from politicians. The case exposed the weaknesses of Victorian law enforcement and left investigators with nothing but frustration. The suspects. Over the years, hundreds of suspects have been named. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant barber, was strongly suspected by police, and modern claims of DNA evidence have linked him to a shawl supposedly tied to Catherine Eddowes, though controversy remains. Montague John Druitt, a barrister who died by suicide shortly after Mary Jane Kelly's murder, was also considered. Others included Michael Ostrog, a Russian thief, and Francis Tumblety, an American quack doctor. More sensational theories implicated wealthy surgeons, artists, Freemasons, and even royalty. None have been proven. The role of the press. The Victorian press fueled the frenzy. Lurid stories, graphic illustrations, and wild theories filled the papers. They not only reported the murders, but shaped them, turning Jack the Ripper into a household name. The press made him more than a killer. They made him a myth. At the same time, coverage reflected the fears of society. Fears of immigrants, of urban poverty, of women living outside traditional roles. Jack the Ripper became a symbol of everything Victorians believed was wrong with modern life. Why did he kill? The killer's motive remains a mystery. Some argue he hated women, especially prostitutes. Others see signs of sexual sadism, ritual obsession, or madness. Modern profilers describe him either as opportunistic and chaotic or cold and calculating. Without solid evidence, his true mind remains unknowable. Legacy and impact. Jack the Ripper's identity was never revealed, which keeps his story alive. His legend gave birth to Ripperology, a field of study devoted to the case. Books, films, tours, and documentaries continue to explore the mystery, yet fascination with the killer risks overshadowing his victims. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly were real women with lives, struggles, and families. Their stories reflect the failures of society to protect its most vulnerable. Why the case endures. The Whitechapel murders remain unsolved. That lack of closure ensures every theory sparks renewed debate. The case endures because it represents more than just crime. It reflects human fears of the unknown and fascination with evil. Jack the Ripper's shadow stretches far beyond 1888. He is both legend and warning, proof that sometimes the mystery itself is more enduring than the truth. Closing. The truth may never be known. But one thing is certain, Jack the Ripper left a permanent scar on London's history and the world's imagination. So, who do you believe he really was? A desperate local killer who knew the streets too well? Or a shadowy figure whose identity was swallowed by time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This is Crimson Truth, where every secret leaves a stain. Subscribe for more chilling stories from the dark world of crime.